that shit. Listen, I love cash flowing, pockets growing, wake up blessed every morning. Just in case y'all didn't notice, I'm the fucking shit up in this bitch and everybody knows it. Cash flowing, pockets growing, wake up blessed every morning.
Welcome back to What's the Situation? Today, I have my niece, Elise, with me, and we are talking about religion. I feel like this has been a heavy subject for a lot of people. I hope that we don't offend anybody with this episode, but I feel like we both have stories to tell and build off of. Elise is my niece through my marriage with Adam. And when I started dating Adam, he was just wrapping up, casually wrapping up being a Mormon. Adam comes from a family of Mormons.
Very Mormon.
Very, very Mormon. They're the sweetest. I really do love y'all's family. It was a difficult time for us because when I started seeing him, he was moving in with Zach at the time. And so when we first started dating, Zach hadn't moved in and Adam was just starting to leave the church at this time. And I think me coming into Adam's life gave him that security to leave the church where he was teetering back and forth. So everybody in the family was like, we know you're not here, but they'd pull it like he'd still go to church on things. And so well, he was living with you guys at the time. Yeah. And then he had moved out. A couple weeks into our relationship, Zach had moved in and he did not like that we were dating because I think he was holding on to the fact that Adam would still be in the church. And I understand from his standpoint, he wasn't like thrilled with us going out or him dating a non-Mormon.
Yeah.
But he gave Adam the ultimatum, like it's either me or Sydney. And Adam was like, well, it's Sydney.
Yeah, well, so I'm not marrying you. So,
and I know that must have been hard for Adam because we've been dating for a month and a half at that point. I think it was like his exit out though, the church. And so that was obviously a really hard thing because he lost that friend. They didn't talk. And then Adam moved into his own apartment. And then we ended up moving in with each other, maybe 6-7 months later. But during that, dating someone who's in a Mormon family, that was rough.
And that was the messy season too. That's right. As everything was, it was still fresh for him and for you and for the whole family.
The whole family, Adam's mom and dad. I really do love them and I love his whole family. But that was, I think, rough for everybody to reconcile. And it was hard for me because I think they knew that Adam was already leaving the church, but I think it was probably amplified by someone who's an extrovert, partier girl coming in.
Well, I also think that like bold personality, just being yourself is like not really, I wouldn't say welcome, but like in Mormonism, you want to be this sweet, submissive, like quiet. That's kind of the standard. And so for you to come in and be like the complete opposite, just confident and yourself and bold, that's like kind of scary to Mormons. Like you're changing a lot of things.
I always felt very welcomed over at your parents' house. Like Kristen and Corey were always just so amazing to us. It felt like a safe haven over there, even though I knew what their stance was on things. I never felt weird or awkward, but I feel like with the rest of the family, everyone was sweet, but it was like walking on eggshells. Like you have to almost hide a part of who you are. Yes. Part of me is going out. We're having a good time drinking, but we're also working 40 hours and going to school. And as a partner to someone who was in the church and leaving the church, I always struggled with that with Adam. Like, I think this is one of the big things of our divorce is I place it on him not feeling comfortable and knowing how to express what he wanted because he didn't feel like he could be himself. And I think that, not to put all of that on a church or a religion, but I think when you're raised in that to almost be like, well, no matter what you think or what you want, this is how you should feel. And I think it's done him on how to be able to express, hey, I don't like certain things in our marriage. But I remember every week we would just have missionaries come to our door. At one point I was like, Adam, I love your family, but if another missionary comes over, I'm going to freak out.
Well, at some point it does become disrespectful. You know, I'm not sending atheists to your house to deconstruct your faith. So please respect me and my decision to live the way that I want to.
It was a slap in the face. When we first started dating, okay, I could see it. But we were talking about 2 years in. I look at Adam and he's such a hard worker. He was trying to do well. He always wanted to help out the family. I remember going over to y'all's house and playing with you guys, bringing over stuff, really trying to be a part of the family. But it almost felt like we weren't good enough because we weren't part. Like here we are working jobs, going to school full time, having a home, being financially independent. being there for the family. And it was like, you're not good enough because you're not a part of the church and you're not having kids yet. And it was just like a weird feeling. It's always like, oh, well, I would love it if you came to church. It's like, I would love it if you'd kick back a bottle of wine with me, but here we are.
Exactly. Like, we just can't win.
And I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like I'm so grateful that Adam had that first. So when you decided to leave, it wasn't new for the whole family.
Totally. I mean, he was the first one to step out. So he took the brunt of the worst of it for sure. The family even says that now in conversations of like, I can't believe that he still talks to us.
I'll give him that because me and my family were just like, what? That is not what you do when you love and care about something. He would tell me the craziest stuff. And I'm just like, that is insane.
It is insane. And I'm glad that they say that now, because if I was treated the way that he was treated, I don't know if I would have a relationship with a lot of those people either. So the fact that he's been able to be where he is now and like so involved and not just like tolerating, but like truly loving and wanting to be there for everybody is crazy to me. So it definitely took a lot of the pressure off of me, but also I didn't have as much of the backlash that he had when he came out. So I'm definitely grateful for him paving a little bit of the way to make it slightly less terrible for me.
We had a lot of people write in and say they were excited for this episode, but want to share your personal journey, maybe tell everybody about your upbringing so they have a better picture of that.
I was born into a very Mormon family.
The top tier one, obviously. Literally, if you're going to be a part of a Mormon family, they're so pure.
Yeah, they're not nuanced Mormons. They're fully committed. And I do think there's a different culture in like Utah or Arizona where it's highly Mormon populated versus here where you're surrounded by all types of religion and all different types of Christianity. I feel like people here are more likely to live it in a stricter way because they're not surrounded by as many Mormons who think a little bit differently or believe a little bit differently. It's very by the book. And I know, like, for both sides of my family, our Mormon lineage goes back to some of the first people who became Mormon in North Carolina. So
it's deep.
It runs deep in our blood. Like, it's not just like my parents decided to go to church when I was 6.
We got converted.
Right. Like,
missionary came to our door.
It's in our blood. It's in every part, every fiber of our being. So that's the world that I was born into.
So much pressure.
So much pressure. And on top of that, I'm the oldest of 6 kids, which I think any older children out there will just automatically get it. There's just a different level of pressure as the oldest child in a family.
Because you're the one who's guiding it.
Yeah.
And I feel like your parents almost look at you as like, you're the role model for the little one.
Yeah, I was the example to look up to. So I definitely felt a lot of pressure to be not just a good sister or a good person, but to be a good Mormon example to them. I knew that they were watching me. I knew that they cared a lot about my decisions and the way I thought about things. And I knew that my decisions and the way I thought about things would influence the same things in them. So that definitely guided me to just want to be the best Mormon that I could possibly be.
Well, it's crazy because when I came into the family, you were probably 10 at the time.
That sounds right.
And you were just so sweet. And I'm going to be honest, when I was taking bets on who was going to leave the church, it wouldn't have been you. I think as you got older, we saw that you buckle a little bit.
Totally.
But it's just so crazy to see where you were at when you were younger and now who you've grown into as a woman. And I'm just super proud of you, not for leaving the church, but like the evolution of being able to stand behind your feelings, even though literally everybody in your family are holding those.
Yeah.
So with that transition, what sent you over the edge of deciding you wanted to leave?
I think there were definitely things, even growing up, that just made me be like, this doesn't feel right. But at the end of the day, I was able to go forward with any of it because I felt like this is the one true church. This is where all the answers are. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is what God wants me to be. So even if some things feel a little weird or I don't necessarily like 100% agree with, I'm willing to go forward with it because this is true.
I wonder how many people have those exact same doubts and bury it in because bringing it to light would mean losing your whole family or people maybe not trusting you.
Yeah. You don't ask questions. That's part of the Mormon culture. You don't ask questions in a way that would make it seem like you have questions or doubts about the beliefs. Like that would be almost blasphemous to be like, I don't agree with this, or I don't think this is true, that would not even be entertained at all.
Which is just so crazy to me, because as parents, we teach our children to question people, make sure that they're safe for them. But we're not doing that in a religious background. It's like, well, in this, it's sacred and you're not supposed to. You have to give faith. I grew up in a very mixed family. Like, my mom is atheist, or she doesn't really know what's going on. My grandmother was Catholic. My aunt and uncle are Episcopalian. My other uncle was Lutheran. It was just all over the place. So it was believe what you want to. I don't know. It's just strange to witness that we question everything else, but we're telling our kids it's not okay to question that in a religion.
Well, even it's okay to question any other religion, but when it comes to your own, like, you just should basically have blind faith, which the older I got, the more I just did not like that. I think as I started to get into puberty, I developed more of that, just like questioning side, trusting my gut in that of like, something does not feel right at all. This makes me uncomfortable. Things with modesty, those were some of the first things that really bothered me. I don't understand why they're policing what we're wearing so much. I think they place a lot of responsibility on women keeping men pure with what they're wearing. Kind of like, I know everybody's heard like, she asked for it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And not that that was necessarily the explicit message that was being taught, but that was the idea, you know, cover up. People are looking at you, and
not even like you have titty cutouts or something like that. Like, you wanted to wear like a spaghetti strap tank top.
That's the thing. It's not like I was asking to wear something insane. I'm not asking to wear a stripper costume. Like, that's not me. That's not. That's
wear just a 2-piece bathing suit to church today.
Literally, yeah. Shorts that just didn't go to the knee. I mean, I wore Bermuda shorts.
You did.
I mean, for a long time, until I was way too old.
I didn't even know they still made Bermuda shorts.
They were probably specially made at some kind of Mormon store.
The undergarment thing, I remember we maybe had just started dating and we were washing clothes and putting them away. And I was like, whoa, what are these things? And they have the special sewing marks on there. And Adam, I could tell how uncomfortable he felt even talking about it. He's like, listen, we're not supposed to talk about this. Here's the gist of it. And he's like, I just feel like it's disrespect. I was like, I get it.
Yeah, but why?
Why? I know.
And that's another thing, like, I thought I started to develop in myself is like, even as a little kid, I wanted to know why. If my mom was like, don't do this, it's dangerous. Okay, well, why? Because you're going to get hurt. A car's going to hit you. You're going to burn yourself. Like, I always wanted to know the why behind it, and that only got stronger.
You should.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong
natural.
with Yeah. Like, if you're not questioning something, I think there's something wrong.
Totally. I agree. The older I got, the more I just dug into, okay, well, you're not going to tell me why, so I'm going to figure it out on my own. And that's what I started to do. But I think there were always things in me where I was questioning. I remember as a kid, I had a Sunday school teacher who said that because she was a convert, her testimony was stronger than anybody who had been born in the church. And I was like, that's a weird thing to say. Like, why as an adult are you telling me as a kid that your testimony is stronger than me? So things like that, where I feel like people were putting their own words.
That's religion.
That's not even like really a Mormon teaching. That's just something you felt these kids should know. I don't know. There's a lot of weird things like that. But the things that took me over the edge, I think it all started in high school when I had friends who were of other religions, like I said, who were different branches of Christianity or even not Christian. I had friends growing up who were not religious at all, and best friends too. These are people I was very close with. And I remember thinking, like, these are good people who are doing a lot of good in their lives. The only difference is maybe they're having a drink with their friends on the weekend. Is that enough to send them to hell? That didn't make sense to me. These people are really good people, and people who, if we believe in some type of concept of heaven, they deserve to be there. They haven't done anything to not be allowed to go there just because they're not Mormon. That started to really not make sense with me. And I even started to get to the point where I was like, even if this is what the church is teaching, I don't believe that, because I know these people are good. And if there is some type of God out there, that's not the God I want to believe in. That is going to keep people out of heaven because they just don't believe in Mormonism specifically.
Because they drank a coffee bean drink or an alcoholic drink.
That was actually one of the things that was like my first stepping stone was coffee.
I remember anytime we would do dinner, my family drinks Diet Coke, caffeinated products, all that stuff. And so like, I remember throwing a dinner and I completely forgot that when we would have his siblings over, the family, no one drinks caffeine. But it's weird because then the guys would go out and get energy drinks. So, okay, you can't have sweet tea, but you're cool with everyone kicking back energy drinks. But then the wives would be like, oh no, I can't believe you did that.
Yeah. Is it really that deep? Then that's how it is about everything. I think that's a big part in Mormon culture is like everybody is policing each other. Yeah. And I think it's set up like that on purpose. And that's what started to create like this dichotomy in my head of like, this is not what I've been taught my whole life. I've been taught to love everybody, and I'm not seeing that in this church. I'm not seeing that you're actually loving everyone and accepting everyone for who they really are. And that's who I want to be. And that's who I feel like I was raised to be. And that's who Mormons claim to be and the Mormon church claims to be. And I just started to see that I really did not think that was actually the case. It was more of just something people said without any meaning or fact behind it. Something they said to make themselves feel better. I'm not sure of like, well, no, we do love everyone. Like,
it's so passive aggressive too. As much as I love Adam's family, I really do. I think there was so much passive, like, if you're angry or upset, why don't you just express like this, I don't want to do this, or everybody would bend their schedules around to make it easier for one person there. I'm like, we've got a kid, we got multiple businesses. We can't do all of this stuff. Like, you're going to have the hard conversation. It's like, nobody wants to have those hard conversations and just be like, listen, we don't agree with this, or this is how I feel about it. It's like beat around the bush. And I'm like, no, that's not how I am. And I think that probably threw a big wrench into the family on that end.
Definitely. Yeah. I say that too. My husband Colby all the time of like Mormonism was very passive aggressive, and definitely like the family culture around it too is passive aggressive. Kind of the same thing of like, we say we love everyone. We say that we are there and supportive, but when it comes down to it, like there's mean comments that are said. If you're going to say that you actually love someone, then you have to act on that too. You can't just say that you love everybody. You have to mean it, and you have to actually put those actions forward of actually loving someone. And making passive aggressive comments or judgmental comments is not it.
We all get to choose how we want to live our lives. Yeah. My thing is, you can feel differently. You can not like what I do, but I don't like it when you don't have the courage to stand behind what you feel. So you can talk behind my back, but you wouldn't be saying it to my face. And I have no problem with you not liking that, but say it to me. We can all say, listen, we don't like your lifestyle. You don't like ours. There's nothing wrong with that. We're going to love you as you are. But to make passive aggressive comments, and there was just so many instances that I remember, like with loving everybody. It's like, well, do you really love us? Because I feel like we're being pressured into coming to the church. Want to love the version of us that you want, not us as we are.
Yeah, it's like, I love you, but I would love you more if you would just commit to being Mormon and come this way. Like, you would be happy, where your life would be better. And I just think that's such a selfish way to live too, of I've got it right, you've got it wrong, and you'll never know what true happiness is because you're lost.
You're way worse. So.
You are just so lost.
You have no clue.
I'll pray
I know that's
for
how
you.
it almost was. It's like, Adam is a very intelligent man. The man can figure out how to do anything. That's what I love about him. If he didn't know how to do something, he would figure out how to do it. But out of everybody, this is a very intelligent kid, and you think that your thoughts and feelings and beliefs are higher than his, and you're treating him disgusting because of that. That always would enrage me, because when you love someone, and I loved him so much, and I'm sitting there watching everyone treat him like shit, I'm like, why are you accepting it and still going over? And it's not that you don't want to be there, but it's like, you've got to have some respect for yourself. You also have to put your boundary up and say, you're not going to treat me like this. I love you. I care. We all have different opinions on this, but we're not treating you nasty because you feel differently than we do.
Yeah.
But when do you think was like, what was there like a final straw moment that you were like, I'm leaving the church now? And what did that moment look like?
Yeah. So I remember that day, that moment very clearly.
How old were you?
19.
I got married in August of 2020. And then that next summer of 2021, June, July, August, that time is when it all came crumbling down for me.
Elise used to work for Catherine and I.
I was working with y'all at the time, telling y'all every day.
Every day she would come in, and we were just like, we're here for you, whatever you need to talk about. But I feel like watching that, it was like crumbling.
And you had already seen it with Adam of
Yeah.
like how hard it was for him. And I think you had some of that worry too of just like, what if she's treated that same way? Luckily, I didn't have that same experience that he did. I definitely received backlash and things in other ways, but at least I didn't get it in the exact way that Adam did.
Yeah. When you were going through that, we were just like, we're going to have to beat someone's ass. And so I feel like you're so close to us. It was just like rough seeing you go through that and have that realization, because Adam had, by the time I came along, he already had that. That was years in the making. I think I was kind of like the safety net for him to step out. But watching you just go, I was like, oh man, I'm praying for you, baby.
Yeah. And I even, when you were saying that about you being that for Adam, I kind of feel that way about Colby. It felt like he gave me the space to just be myself. Like he fell in love with me when I was still a Mormon. He married me when I was still a Mormon. And there wasn't that pressure from him for me to live that same way. He didn't think that I needed to do any of that to be a good person. And that was kind of eye-opening for me too, to see his family. These are really good people.
And they're in their church pretty active too, right?
They're very active in their Baptist church. I even went to church with them several times and remember thinking, these are good people too. This is a good message. Have good feelings here when I hear this music. These are the same feelings that I feel good about in the church. But if the Mormon church only has that, how am I also able to feel it somewhere else?
Yeah.
That's not supposed to be the case. We're supposed to have the only ones to have that happiness. How does somebody else also have that?
I agree.
Started to really become an issue for me. But it was actually this influencer that I follow, Sydney McGee, and she posted a video one day about reasons why, or here are the reasons why I left the Mormon church. And that was the first time where I let myself go to that headspace. I think because I was away from home, it was still in a time where the world was shut down. So I had space to not be in like a church space every week. And I had the space away from like my family to not feel that same pressure on a consistent basis. And then I had the space with Colby to just be myself. Like he loved me exactly who I was. And I didn't have pressure from him to stay Mormon. And so I think all of those things combined to where when I saw that video, I was enough away from it and in a headspace where I was okay to watch it. And that was the start of it. When I watched that video, I never turned back after that. That's what kind of solidified it for me. And I think there were always things that I didn't align with or agree with. But when I watched that video and learned that there were things that were just made up, things that were hidden from me, things that I were not taught about, and that the history of the church was just different than the way that I was taught it, that's what made it all come crumbling down of like, okay, well, I hung on to all of this. I believed all of this because I thought this was a true church. And because of all of this stuff that you had said happened in the history to make me believe that it was true, to find out that it didn't happen that way, it's like, okay, so it's not even the true church. And now you're just making me do all this stuff. And I feel like shit for something that's not even real. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I think that just kind of spiraled it into me like nonstop consuming any content I could.
You come in every day and be like, guess what I heard? Like, read this.
I mean, because I hadn't ever given myself the space to look at any of that, entertain those thoughts. It was like this overload of new information that I had never had before that changed my life.
And you guys were so young when Adam left. And it's hard because it's like, you want to be there. And I didn't want to be the one to deliver that, or I wanted to be very respectful of your parents and respectful of you. And when you came in, you were like, all this stuff. And we're like,
we know. We were waiting.
We were waiting for you to come to that conclusion.
I still remember that day when I came in, I was like, Sydney, I found out that I was raised in a cult last night. And she was like, yeah,
come here.
I know. Yeah. And I remember that so clearly. And I also don't know what I would have done if I didn't have those few people who were like a lifeline for me of like, you guys, just to be able to talk about that period was like huge for me to just have an outlet anywhere. And I think that's why I wanted to come on the podcast too. That was so instrumental for me to have even just one person, like to have you as a constant in my life, to be able to be like, this is weird, this sucks, and I don't really have anybody else to talk to about it.
Well, they do. And going through that with Adam and then with you being there and it just a small even part of that. I just know how rough that is when you're leaving something that's so important to your family, and everybody in your family is so devout to it too. And this is a hard thing to reconcile too. There's so many amazing things to Mormonism and to the LDS church on like how they raise families and how they are there for each other on certain aspects of it. There's a lot of parts that are very wholesome, and especially for your family, your mom and dad are amazing people. When I had Sterling, there were so many things about your mom and dad that I really loved how they handled things with you guys. And they were very active. She's not a mother who pretends to like being a mother. She is so just loving. Sterling is obsessed with her. Just the way that she cares for other people's children and she shows up for people. She's just such a good person. And so that was hard for me seeing that. And these are the aspects that I like of that. But like, I'm not joining a cult either. Sorry, not going to happen. Like I respect everybody. If everybody wants to have that religion, that's great. But I'm not being a part of that. But when you left that, I was just like, you're going to need somebody there. That's why I was like, just talk to whoever you can. Just tell, because it's a lot. Like you're leaving everything.
Yeah, because like I was saying, that influenced every decision I made day in and day out for 19 years of my life. That doesn't just like go away overnight. You still have these thought processes that are ingrained in you. They're part of just the way that you think about things. And even now, like when I'm talking about the way that, I see things and believe now, I can still instantly hear those Mormon comebacks of like, well, XYZ, blah, 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 like all of their little comebacks. I can still hear those in my head. Like I was surrounded by it for long enough that I know exactly what their response is.
No, it's so rough. Something that people asked about was the social and emotional impact. And how did your family and friends act who are still in the church?
The first people I told was my parents, and I couldn't even get up the nerve to tell them in person. I don't know if I would have been able to get the words out. And I also felt so strongly that I knew that was a decision that I wanted to make, to not be a member of the church anymore and go my own direction, that I didn't want there to be any chance of them telling me, well, try reading this book. And not that I thought they would do that, but there's always a chance that they could try to persuade me to think differently. And I just wanted them to know, this is the decision I've made and I need you to be okay with it.
I think it's also difficult because like you were young when you got married too, but you're still young. But I think you found the perfect partner for you. I really do. You're 19 though, and those are your parents and you're still a child almost. So I think a first inclination is like, but did you do this? Or trying to like pull someone back in. I know the story, but like, how did that go with your parents?
They were really good about it. I think their response was just, oh, Elise, like, we just love you. Like, just know that. And that
just sounds like such something your mom would say. I can hear her say that.
You can hear my mom saying it.
I love you. But, just her, I can see her saying that.
And they've said several times, like even recently, just like the way that they were able to respond had a lot with the fact that they had already gone through that with Adam.
Yeah.
They know now. And at the point when I had left, that was not a good way to handle it. They shouldn't have been so harsh about it. I think there's things they regret saying, and they knew that they didn't want it to be that way with me. And so their message was just, we love you. We're here for you. We're not going to let this come in between us. And I think that is what has saved us from even being able to have a relationship at all. At the end of the day, we want each other to know that we love each other, and neither of us are going to try to convince each other of our different beliefs, and we just express love. I feel so lucky that that was the response that they gave me, because so many people do not get that response. And I've seen it firsthand. Like Adam did not get that response. I was young enough where I don't remember like the conversations word for word or anything like that. But I remember,
like, thinking about it makes me want to cry right now.
Yeah. The way he was looked down upon, like he had done something just so terrible.
Like he murdered some, like the responses were insane. And Adam had already been through this several times, because he was going on a mission twice. And then the stuff the kid did just to get out of the mission was insane to me. I don't want to tell his story like that, because that's his story to tell. But just some of the stuff that they did, I mean, I wouldn't do that shit to my worst enemy, let alone my child. I was really taken aback. I was like, there's no way, like meeting everybody in the family. I was just like, they're not even capable of that. And then as it starts coming out and like things that are done, Adam and I have had our differences. There's enough time that has passed that I am just really in a good spot. But he was so kind to his family and like being there.
Yeah. And I think like that was a big reason why I was so scared to tell people. I was terrified that I was going to get that response. It had been a long time since he had left and since all that had went down, but it was still new and fresh to me. And I still remember how the response that he got. I remember what they said about him, and I didn't want that said about me because I didn't feel like it was true or fair or right. And I think it just caused me to feel completely misunderstood of like in Mormonism specifically, it feels like you have to over-explain why you feel the way that you do instead of just being like, I feel differently.
Well, and I love how you've handled that. But then other family members, I remember, were not so kind.
Yes, there was definitely a group of family members who were evil.
Yeah.
Dare I say evil?
Devil worshippers?
Satanic. Yeah. I'm not sure the right word for them.
When you came in and would tell us, I'm like, Elise, I'm not even joking right now. I'm going to get in my car and start whooping some asses. Catherine and I were like, let's roll up because
like, please.
The shit that was done though. And I don't know how much you want to say about that or whatnot, but I was just always taken aback. I was like, no. And I think as a parent, I was like, why is no one saying anything? Someone's got to stick up for you. Like someone's got to say something. And it was just like, again, the passive aggressive. We don't want to rock the boat on things.
I'm like, you're rocking the damn boat for me. I mean, you are poking holes in it every chance you get, but we can't say anything back to it like that. Yeah. There were some awful things said about me. I think I made some post about like how it was hard to leave and how it was just like lonely and traumatic, and there was people in my family who did not like that. They thought I had no reason to be upset, no reason to say anything that I said, no reason to say I had trauma. Like they just...
And to kind of give like a background, you had cousins and other family members who were around your age, close aunts and uncles. So these are people who've watched you grow up and were with you growing up. And I think some relationships were probably burned on that one.
Absolutely. They were people who I was best friends with.
Yeah.
I mean, they lived in the same town that I did. I saw those people on at least a weekly basis, if not more.
Because we're like inseparable.
Yeah. I had cousins who were my same age, and I saw those people every day. That was a huge part of my life and still is. Like my family is my number one to me. And I think earlier you made a great point of like, there are so many good things about Mormonism that I still love. Like, I don't think Mormonism is completely bad. I don't think it's all evil. There are good parts to it. But if we want it to be a healthy, productive environment, like there are things that really need to change. And it's not going to. I think there was kind of a misconception when I first left too, that it was... When people hear that you've left the church, there are assumptions that are just immediately made about you. One of them, that you left because you were offended. And I think that was a lot of people's assumption. As active members, they couldn't wrap their head around me thinking that it's not true. It was easier for them to be like, well, she was just upset by what this bishop said or what this church leader said, and she was offended, so that's why she decided to leave. And
it's like, you don't uproot your whole entire life because you're offended about something,
right? Like, and yeah, those things were hurtful and they did suck. Your bishop should not be saying those things about you or asking you those questions. It's a breeding ground for bad behavior and bad people. It goes unchecked.
That's what I was going to say. Everyone puts faith in the power within those people, and they allow their children to be manipulated and guided by people that you don't actually know.
Yeah.
You think you know them, but how many people live double lives who are these head of churches that come out that run sex slave trades or different things like that? And you're like, oh my God, I would have never known, because you don't know those people actually.
Yeah.
We like lock our kids in with these people and allow that conversations to be had and all that. No, hell no.
That was another thing. That's kind of an interesting story. If you make any mistake ever,
you're going to hell.
Your life is over. But if it's something like really bad, which is like you drank or you smoke or you had some kind of sexual experiences, like the worst thing you could ever do.
You're actually just going to set fire immediately and die.
Yeah, you are just the worst. But you're expected to confess those things to your bishop. And I had a friend in high school who felt so guilty about what she had done. That was not anything serious at all, like literally just a normal teenage experience. But she felt that's the Mormon culture, is you feel pressured to confess and make it right. You feel so guilty that you've done whatever it is that you feel like the only way to get forgiveness or to be okay is
tell some middle-aged man.
Yeah, that was something that really bothered me. Like when she went in and confessed these things and she was asked very inappropriate questions like how many times or what position.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't actually matter.
What is that going to do? Is that going to make your punishment worse or better? Like, do you just want to hear about it? What is going on?
It's so creepy to me.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Like they have a book and they're like, okay, hold on. This position, okay, hold on.
5 more
you
points.
You had 5 drinks here. You did this for what, 5 minutes? Okay, well, here's what you have to do.
Yeah, and there's no list. There's no scale. Like you're just basing it all off your own opinion. Like there's no training that goes into that for here's what you should do if someone has sex before marriage, or here's what you should do if someone drinks alcohol. There's not specific ways you're supposed to be punished for that. It's just all up to whatever the bishop feels like.
Which again, how is that a thing?
Exactly. It doesn't make any sense. It's just some random man who has no training. He has no like actual authority from God inside of his body that grants him some kind of power to have me forgiven by God.
He's like, hold on, let me go talk to him real quickly.
Right.
Let me go put in a good word.
It doesn't make any sense that this middleman would be the person who grants me forgiveness. Like, shouldn't I just pray and ask God for forgiveness? And that would be okay.
I just remember sitting in church and being like, what is going on right now? Thinking, like, are we the crazy ones or are they? Listen, believe what you want to believe, but it always took me back that like educated adults are believing this shit. I was just like, how? Why is no one saying anything? Adam was probably like, shut up, Sydney. I'm sick of, because I was just always like, every time I'm like, but how? I cannot get this in my brain. Yeah. How is everyone believing in this?
And once you're open to that, like there's no way to go back.
And I'm a spiritual person, but I believe in more morality than religion. Because I think, well, we already know there's how many different religions? Everybody thinks theirs is the top one. No.
Yeah. Well, and that was another thing in childhood that like stood out to me. I had very good friends who were Methodist or Presbyterian or Baptist. Like I had all sorts of different denominations of friends, and they all believed that there was the true church. And I even remember one of my friends in high school said, like, if I was born into like a Jewish family, I would have been Jewish.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, same. If I was born into, whatever faith, why would I have been like, nope, Mormonism, like
popped out of the womb,
like,
I'm Mormon.
That doesn't happen. Like you are a product of what you're raised in. If your parents are telling you that this is the way to live, you're going to believe that, at least to a certain point.
Yeah. Well, not growing up in a very religious household, I always straddled the line of trying to figure out what religion looked like to me or what my faith looked like. And I think as an adult, I still struggle with that of like, I believe that there's a higher power. I think that there's something more out there. I'm not sure what that looks like. Obviously, that's just having faith. But I always felt like religion was hard because it's created by a man. Like you're told and then it's updated. The Catholic Church is a perfect example. When things fit, then they're like, okay, here are the new rules for it. But I've always thought like when you look at people who are religious, the only people who are religious are the ones who are either born into the religion and it's important to their family, or people who have gone through a life crisis and are looking for community and need help that way. I've never witnessed like a 30-year-old something just being like, my life's great. I'm not religious, but I'm just going to walk into this church. That's not how that works. It's either like you're building a family and you're trying to find an anchor for this, or
yeah, you don't just fall into it without like searching or you're looking
like
for
life
something.
trauma has happened and I need this now. I need to believe in something. I need to have this faith. Like I feel like I'm being pulled towards that. So I just thought that was strange.
I think that's what keeps a lot of people to stay too. Say you're already a member, something traumatic happens, you lose a sibling, you lose a spouse, like you lose a grandparent. And I think Mormonism creates problems and then presents themselves as a solution. So like, you're not going to be with your family forever after you die. But we have a solution for that. If you just become Mormon and get married,
the three tiers.
Yeah, like you
it's
just
like
have
a
to
sales
do
pitch.
Literally, you have to do X, Y, and Z, and then you can be with your family forever. I don't believe that whatever God or higher power there is dictating it in that kind of way. Like,
there's got to be a lot of paperwork behind that.
Seriously,
how does that sorting happen?
Exactly. Like, it just logically does not make any sense.
I know. Listen, kudos to them for making so many people believe the Mormon church has more money than, well, God.
Yeah, that is for damn sure.
Okay. So did you have any uncertainty after you left? Have you ever felt like, oh, I feel like I'm missing a piece or I need to go back?
No.
Nope.
No. I think I was very sure of my decision when I left, and
I feel like there was a lot of anger behind it too, almost like you were like, I've been lied to.
Yeah, that was huge for how I felt. Just felt like I had sacrificed so much. I sacrificed who I really feel like I am at my core to be somebody that I really fully wasn't, because I felt like it was the right thing to do. And so to feel like I was doing all of that for nothing, something that some random guy made up for his benefit, like, that's not a good reason for me to pretend to be somebody that I'm not.
I believe it.
And I just, I think that's just part of my personality too, is like, I am prone to just question. Well, like I said, like, just want to know why, like, why, okay, you feel that way, but why? But that's what was so hard about, that's what did make it hard about leaving, is I felt so sure about everything in Mormonism. And so to have that completely wiped out and to have nothing and have no sense of who I am, what my purpose was, what do I even like to do? I feel like you're told all these things that you want to be. You're supposed to be a mother. You're supposed to be a wife. And like, well,
so quickly, I feel like it's just like, bam, you're 18 and these kids are getting married. Yeah. And not saying that they might not be soulmates, but if I would have gotten married at 18, I didn't know who I was at 18. You're changing. You're always changing. And then you're having children and all these kids. And I hated going to church. Not that I like being there to support you guys, but watching outside of your family, everybody looked miserable there because they've got 4 kids. Everybody just looked tired and miserable.
Yeah.
That's not an ad to come in. This is not making me want to become Mormon because everyone looks miserable here, you know? Just a lot of kids and a lot of tired parents.
Yeah. I have some friends that have left, and we talk about, if I had gotten married to somebody else at 18, 19, I would at least have 2-3 kids by now.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
No doubt in my mind. If I had married the Mormon that I was dating in high school, I absolutely would. I'd have children with him. Like, we would be Mormon all the time. And I just feel so lucky that I found Colby.
I know. He is so sweet. He really is.
Just, yeah.
What were the steps to leaving the church? Because I feel like a couple people probably had questions about what that looked like.
Yeah. I think the first step, there were definitely several.
They retracted your membership card immediately.
Well.
They're like, give me that. Come on. All right, y'all. That's a wrap on episode 7, Religion, part 1. We're just getting started, so don't leave us on red. Tune in next time for part 2, where Elise spills a cocktail on her journey leaving the Mormon church. You won't want to miss it. Catch you next time on What's the Situation?
Fuck that shit, listen, ayy, look, cash flowing, pockets growing, wake up, bless every morning, just in case y'all didn't notice, I'm the fucking shit up in this bitch and everybody knows.